We are heading for the cold areas of Papa Stronsay in Scotland, where far, far from the noise of the modern world, something is being resurrected that many thought was gone forever. Mass of the ages and tradition of Catholic Church. Meet the sons of Most Holy Redeemer, wholly dedicated to preserving the charism of Saint Alphonsus Liguori. Praise be Jesus Christ. My name is Matt, and I'm here to give you just a grasp of information about what's going on right now from the perspective of Polish Catholic. You may know or not, me and my wife, we have quite a big channel in Poland that is called Hard to be Catholic. And if you can and if you want support this little channel, I'll be very grateful. You can do it through Patreon. I will leave you the link down below. But today I'll give you a very interesting story. Those monks, they started in England. They were also present in France. But finally, they found themselves in old monastic life on Papa Stronsay. Their full reconciliation with the Holy See came in 2008 under Pope Benedict XVI, who lifted all canonical penalties and paved the way for the formal recognition as a diocesan institute in 2012. Today they're also present in New Zealand, Montana, USA, where they build monasteries, preach gospel and celebrate the Latin Mass. Everything as if the Second Vatican Council had never happened. And as long as Cardinal Ratzinger was Pope Benedict XVI, things went pretty well for the community. But Pope Francis came into power and suddenly everything changed. Why am I making this episode? I'm making this episode because one of those monks sent me a message. You probably know, and I told you just a couple of minutes ago, me and my wife, we have a significant YouTube channel promoting tradition in Poland. We made a very well received documentary about traditional Latin Mass. So those monks thought they could write me so I can be, their voice in the desert. In a few minutes, I will read you a dramatic letter from the Sons of the Most Holy Redeemer, where we will hear about Michael Gillen, Bishop of Christchurch in New Zealand, who wants to throw those monks out of his diocese. I will also mention about Archbishop Carlo Maria Vigano. He was exiled by Pope Francis, and he's not afraid to call the current situation by name, the Bergoglian Revolution, which is still continuing, even though there is a new Pope, Leon XIV. I really hope that the new Pope somehow will change the course of action. The conflict really began in 2024 when Bishop Gillen accused the monks of disobedience and did everything possible to expel them from his diocese. He even asked the Vatican for apostolic visitation in response to so-called disturbances and public reports related to monks' activities. The details? Unclear and unknown. Nobody knows what's going on, really. The local church authorities never disclosed the real cause of the visitation of the Vatican authorities and the decision to remove monks from their diocese. Nothing, everything silently. From what I have learned, no canonical laws were breached or broken. None of them. However, as you may wonder, it is all about the war between two opposite visions of the church. One is conservative, sticking to tradition, the other progressive, the other building the new church that worships not the Jesus Christ, not the God, but the world. It seems we have now two churches in one body of Christ. And definitely one of them is fake, for sure. Nevertheless, the monks appealed and carried on their ministry. It is worth to mention that the parishioners over there in New Zealand, they love their monks. They love the Latin Mass. It is really a healthy, good society. Then, 1 year later, on August 10th, 2025, Bishop Gillen publicly announced that the Vatican had fully rejected monks' appeal. The 2024 decision of Bishop Gillen to remove all the monks from diocese were upheld and ready to execute. But monks stayed and continued offering tradition masses to parishioners. And those parishioners want those monks there to stay with them as long as possible, forever. Of course, that situation was unacceptable for the bishop, who saw that as an act of rebellion, as a challenge to unity and obedience. They always, modernists, they always use these empty words like unity, which for modernists is more important than the truth. As you may imagine, this synodal language, it only applies for the Protestants and the Jews, but not for Catholics that loves tradition. So what Bishop Gillen wrote in his letter: I support those who find spiritual nourishment in the Latin Mass, but only, of course, in the version pre-approved and assigned to one specific church in New Zealand at 11 a.m. on Sunday. So he basically says, you can go to Mass, but only in the church I give you under my control. Something is wrong here with the thinking of the bishop. It's not really Catholic to say, because yes, you can love the old Mass, as long it is on Bishop Gillen terms. Just don't criticize the synodal church narrative, same-sex couples blessings, and LGBTQXYZ Catholics agenda, and you will be completely fine. Our church is under attack, as our Polish Saint Maximilian Kolbe said in 1930. How many priests today fall for the mistakes of the world, forgetting their mission? This is Satan's great victory. Or, the enemy is awake. His plans are far advanced. He wants to infiltrate the church and destroy it from within. Can you imagine that those words are so prophetic? Yeah, they are coming from the Polish Saint Maximilian Kolbe, who said that 100 years ago. And take a look. Look where we are now. It is just happening, unfolding in front of our eyes right now, in the church. The church has been infiltrated, and Saint Maximilian Kolbe predicted it 100 years ago. It is really hard to be Catholic, but it is even harder when you have the courage to say out loud that our church is under heavy influence of heresy, Protestantism. You know what Father Maximilian Kolbe said about Protestants? This will be really tough. Okay, I'm waiting for the comments. He said that they are the vanguard of the Freemasonry. On October 16th, 2025, Archbishop Vigano published a powerful statement on his website titled Tolle Missam Tolle Ecclesiam. Take away the Mass and you shall destroy the church. These are the words of heretic Martin Luther, just recycled as a prophetic warning. In this document, Archbishop Vigano praises the Sons of the Most Holy Redeemer for their courageous stance against synodal conciliar church, and also for calling out the errors, hostility toward the Mass of the Ages, because many Catholics do not realize, they are not aware what is really going on inside the church. Vigano also praises them for long-standing pressure that they have endured, especially after 17 years of tension within the Vatican and the Bishop Gillen. Archbishop Vigano really doesn't sugarcoat it, He calls today's Catholic hierarchy frightened cowards. His statement came just one day after the monks released their open letter to bishops, priests, religious, and the faithful. As a clear sign that we are entering a new phase of open conflict over the church, the Mass, and the truth. So, what's in that letter? What are the monks really saying? What do they want to communicate? Why do they believe that the church is undergoing a massive crisis and attack? Listen for yourself.
Dear faithful, live Jesus our love and Mary our hope. It is with a heavy heart and great sadness that we write to you. What unites us is our great love for our Holy Mother, the Catholic Church and Bride of Jesus Christ, for whom the martyrs shed their blood and the saints gave their lives. It is this love that forces us to express a truth that is difficult, however essential. Luke 12:4-9. Just like you, we too have cherished great hope for many years. We believed it was possible to live as faithful children of the tradition within the structures of the modern church. We believed that the old and beautiful traditions of our faith, in particular the Latin Mass of all times, would be rightfully returned to us. This gave us hope, especially during the time of Benedict XVI. We confidently expected that we would be able to freely practice the faith of our fathers in the church. We didn't know how wrong we were. Through years of trials and experience, we have come to the unfortunate conclusion that the traditional Catholic faith, the faith of all times and of the saints, is incompatible with the new modern church, the fruit of the Second Vatican Council. They simply cannot coexist in one body. Since we deeply cherish and honor the traditional Latin Mass and cannot give up the Holy Mass of the centuries and of the saints, this new church does not want us. Because of our fidelity, we have been considered stubborn, difficult, and rebellious, stitched up and lied about in never-ending acrimony. This letter appeals to all who sense that something is tremendously wrong in the church or who think that the new church and the unchanging faith can peacefully coexist. Alas, allow us to state the sad truth that our experience clearly shows this to be impossible. Surely this new church would shock all the holy popes who declared time and again that religious indifferentism is a very great evil, absolutely incompatible with the Catholic faith. We tell you, we will not be complicit by silence in this ongoing destruction of the church. We must speak up at some time, and what better time than now? After 17 years as a community within the structures of the church, we have been continually isolated and harassed. More especially these last years, the Bishop of Christ Church has made us to be as the offscouring or scum of the earth. By his numerous decrees and recourse to Rome, he has sought to expel our monks from the diocese. He wants to have 15 local vocations, perpetually exiled from their families and homeland. We tell you now, higher duty forbids it. So long as there is but one soul that asks us for the holy sacrifice of the Mass, the sacraments or spiritual help, with God's grace we will not desert it. The Good Shepherd urges us to lay down our lives for his sheep and keep the hungry wolf at bay. It is our duty in charity, in theology, and by canon law. Why? Because the chain of command has been broken. Authority in the church is ministerial, serving our Lord. Not absolute, doing whatever it likes. It binds us because it is itself bound to Christ, to the deposit of the faith, to the constant magisterium. When a superior departs from his own obedience to Christ the King, his command is no longer the arm of Christ, but the gesture of a man. These churchmen disobey God, and then, having shattered the chain of God's command, they attempt to invoke religious obedience for matters that deplete the church and take away the Holy Mass. Tolle missum, tolle ecclesiam. Take away the Mass, you destroy the church. Luther. No, we must obey God before man, and therefore, cleaving with might and main to our deep communion with our Holy Mother, the Church, our duty before our Lord Jesus Christ and towards souls demands that we repudiate amoris laetitia, permitting Holy Communion to couples living in sin. We repudiate traditionis custodes, persecution of the Mass and Catholics. We repudiate fiducia supplicans, permitting the blessing of same-sex couples. We repudiate the document on human fraternity, stating that God wills all religions. We repudiate the false theology of sister churches and partial communion. We repudiate the false shepherds who triumphantly process the Pachamama idol in St. Peter's. We repudiate Francis apologizing for the heroic Catholic who threw that idol into the Tiber. We repudiate the scourge of religious indifference in New Zealand and throughout the church. We repudiate the New Zealand bishop's acts of closing churches and denying the sacraments in cowardly submission to the COVID-19 oppression. We repudiate the Bishop of Christ Church receiving his ashes on Ash Wednesday from the Anglican Bishop of Christ Church. We repudiate the corruption of children and scandal given to the innocent through evil catechetical programs. We repudiate Francis teaching that all religions are as different languages and asking, "Is my God more important than yours?" We repudiate the silence of those bishops who failed to speak out against that betrayal of the faith. We repudiate the synodal church as distinct from the divinely constituted Catholic Church. We repudiate the ongoing destruction and humiliation of our Holy Mother, the Church. We repudiate those who attack or undermine the Church in her dogma, morals, sacraments, or discipline with a new cult of man. To all who read this, how long will all this nonsense go on? Whatever may be the cost to us, with the apostle we must say, anathema. But though we, or an angel from heaven, preach a gospel to you besides that which we have preached to you, let him be anathema. As we said before, so now I say again, if anyone preach to you a gospel besides that which you have received, let him be anathema. Galatians 1:8-9. Do not remain silent. Defend the faith of our fathers. Although all nations obey King Antiochus, so as to depart every man from the law of his father and consent to his commandments. I and my sons and my brethren will obey the law of our fathers. 1 Maccabees 2:19-20. On the contrary, it is written, Acts 5:29, we ought to obey God rather than men. Now sometimes the things commanded by a superior are against God. Therefore superiors are not to be obeyed in all things. St. Thomas Aquinas expecta Dominum. Expect the Lord, do manfully, and let thy heart take courage.
How can it be in the church? How can those things happen right now in front of our eyes? Innocent men, they just suffer because of the church. Sorry, not because of the church, because of the hierarchy, because of the modernists. Pope Francis said so many things about unity, but he was the main cause for the separation of Catholics with his, Pachamamas, Freemasonry views and persecuting Latin Mass. What kind of Pope is that hates a Catholic Mass and says words that fit to Freemasonry ideology? What kind of Pope is that? Can you explain me? I'm not a sedevacantist. I'm a Catholic. I say there's a Pope right now, a valid Pope, but I will not stop criticizing Pope's behavior, words, because I have a right to do so as a Catholic. I'm also the church. We are the church. Throughout the centuries, heresies were nothing new. At times it was a layperson, individual, other times a priest, or even entire religious orders that fell into error. And when those errors became public and persistent, what church did? The church responded with clarity, excommunication, the formal exclusion from the community of the faithful, as a last resort to protect the deposit of faith, because it was its main goal. This is the main goal of church, the main mission, to protect the deposit of faith. That is the reason why Council of Trent was established. It was the answer, the result of Martin Luther, this heretic, satanic revolution. There was a strong answer to say, Martin Luther is a heretic. Be careful. It was then. But today is a little bit different, Today excommunication may not fall on the heretic, but on the faithful. Yes, we are living through a time of rupture. The teachings of the church is upside down completely. A modern-day Catholic, be it a layman, a priest, or an entire religious community, can now be punished, silenced, or even officially excluded, not for rebelling against the doctrine, but for defending it. Do you see the difference? And it is not subtle difference. Today, I can be excommunicated for not aligning with the openly Marxist rhetoric of the Pope. You can be penalized for staying faithful to the tradition, for loving the Latin Mass. You can be cast out for opposing blessings for same-sex couples, the abolition of priestly celibacy, or the ordination of women. You can be threatened with excommunication not because you betrayed the faith, but because you kept it. Today you can get into trouble just for calling Mother of God co-redemptorix. Look what happened to us, to once strong and clear in her doctrine church, priests, bishops, cardinals. Even the Pope betrayed their founder. Just look what happened to us. It's so difficult to see those priests, bishops, cardinals, even some popes betraying the founder, betraying Jesus Christ. You no longer need to deny the creed to be punished. You only have to stop clapping at the synod. And that's why, more than ever, it's hard to be really Catholic. Paradoxically, communism in Poland motivated the church to stick to the healthy Catholic doctrine. Many thought it would be like this forever. But the goodies of liberal and Marxist Western civilization are here in Poland already. We have the advantage because we fall behind a little bit, so we see right now what is happening in the West, in America, in Western Europe. I still believe that we have time to react, but the time is running out. If we do not do it now, it's just too late. Protestant sects, with a helping hand of Judaism representatives, do whatever they can to weaken the faith of Poles and transforms it into Freemasonic ideology. I am not overreacting. I am a Pole, I live in Poland, I see what is going on. You have no idea how strong Jewish lobby is in Poland. You have no idea. So I can tell you, I can repeat it, it is hard to be Catholic, but I can say it is really worth it. Because even if you are left isolated, silenced, or cast out, it's better to be rejected for fidelity than accepted for compromise. In the end, truth doesn't vote and it doesn't need a majority. It simply is. If you wish to help those monks in any way, you can find several links under this episode. Please also go and see my movie, The Hidden Treasure of the Church. You can see it right now on the screen. You can see the link also under this episode. And if you want to support this little channel, you can do it through Patreon or buy me a coffee. Thank you very much for your attention. Christ is King.